So, an official welcome from the NRICH team to all of you out in schools. As Charlie has just said, this webinar is taking place as part of Maths Week England, but we're delighted that we're welcoming schools from around the world. So it's lovely to have you all here. My name is Liz, and as I say, I'm a member of the NRICH team, and I'm here with Charlie. Hi, Charlie, and with Ems. Hi, Ems. So we are really looking forward to doing some mathematics with you this morning. Teachers, what we're going to be inviting you to do is, as we set students off on thinking about a task, do kind of wander around, see what your students are up to. And then if you know, when we're asking for contributions, if you can gather some thoughts from your class as a whole and post them. I think we're going to have to use the Q&A, and Charlie and I will do our best to manage that. That would be absolutely wonderful. So Charlie and I are particularly excited this morning because we've got a couple of tasks to share with you. The first one, some of you may have seen before. However, we have got a really good follow-up to do with you, which we believe that you may be some of the first students to have a go at. So it's all very exciting. Charlie, are you ready to do the maths?
Yes.
Great. Charlie, could you share, please, using your visualizer, what you have prepared earlier? Wonderful.
And perhaps it's worth saying, we're not using the students today as guinea pigs. These problems had been tested out with teachers and on several occasions, and now we think they're ready. Exactly.
Yes, I should have said that. Good point. So you can see, everybody, I hope, that Charlie has got here, he's got 8 boxes on his screen. And the way that we'd like you to look at this, please, are 2 number sentences, one above the other. So Charlie, could you just draw attention to that top number sentence? Thank you. And there we've got an inequality sign. So we're hoping we're going to read that as a 2-digit number is less than another 2-digit number. And then below that, we've got another inequality to be read in the same way. A 2-digit number is less than a 2-digit number. So Charlie, I've got a challenge for you. I'd like you to place the numbers, or the digits, 1 to 8 in those boxes, please. Oh, I see what you've done there. So please use all of those digits once, and only once. And please, can you try and do it in such a way so that those inequalities are correct? So have a go.
Okay.
As we're watching Charlie do this, have a think yourself what you might do. Okay, Charlie.
And this, I can just choose numbers fairly randomly, can I?
Yeah, well, have a go, Charlie.
Okay, well, I think 24.
Yeah.
I listed the numbers so I could go crossing them out.
Good idea.
Is less than 53.
Okay, yeah, I would agree.
And 61 is going to be less than 87. Yeah. And I've used all 8 numbers that way.
Brilliant. Okay. And I hope those of you, you know, in classrooms around the world can see what Charlie's done there. So those 2 inequalities are correct. 24 is less than 53. 61 is less than 87, and Charlie's used the digits 1 to 8 exactly once. Now, Charlie, what I didn't tell you, I was a bit sneaky, is that there's a bit more to this challenge. So you're going to get a score, and your score is the sum, or the total, of the 2 2-digit numbers on the left. So in your case, it's going to be the total of 24 and 61. So I reckon, what do we reckon? That's it. So you're going to add those 2 2-digit numbers together. So what do we think?
That's going to give me my score.
That's going to give you your score.
And we're scoring it because we're assuming this is going to be used as a game.
Right.
So yeah. I'll do the score, and then you can explain. Okay. Okay.
So in this instance, Charlie's score is 85, which sounds pretty good to me. What do we reckon? However,
is it possible to get a higher score?
Well, that's a really good question, Charlie. whether it is possible to get higher than 85. So this is where you working in your classrooms come in. Can you arrange those digits 1 to 8 in the boxes in the way that Charlie has done, so that first of all, you've created 2 correct inequalities, but can you arrange the numbers so that the score is more than 85? I wonder what the highest possible total is. Charlie and I are going to give you, let's say, a few minutes, three or 4 minutes, to have a little think about that. Ideally, I suggest you work with a partner or at least one other person. Have a go. What's the highest total you can get? What we'd like you to do, please, is to post your total. We'll have to use the Q&A, but if you could post your total, don't tell us how you've arranged your digits yet, just your highest total.
Somebody's posted a question saying, the higher the score, the better, ? And the answer is definitely yes. We're trying to get the highest possible score.
Great. Okay, so let's leave you some time to have a go. Off you go.
Oh, a primary school has already done better than me. They scored 93. And one class has scored more than 100. Some schools have scored totals that I don't think satisfy both inequalities. So the school that scored 130 and 161, I don't think that's possible to use all 8 numbers. All 8 numbers need to be used and have the 2 inequalities working out. So the school that scored 130 and the school that scored 161 and the school that scored 134, could you have another look and just check?
Yes, and I'm not sure 148 is possible either, I can see, for those reasons you've described.
Yes.
Or 141. Do make sure you're using each digit only once and your inequalities are correct. So those 2 number sentences have got to be correct.
There's 152 that isn't possible, and 161. But a lot of answers in the 120s, which we know is the highest possible total. So if you've got 130, I think you've gone too far.
Mm-hmm. Somebody has asked about, so just to clarify, we're using, this is two-digit numbers in each number sentence at this stage. So two-digit numbers, to make that clear. I wonder, those of you who've been posting, I wonder how you know you've got the highest total. So would you be able to convince somebody else that your total was the highest? Have a think about that. Maybe rehearse those arguments with your partner. We'll just perhaps give 30 seconds more for anybody else to contribute.
So we're just confirming the highest we think is between 120 and 130.
Thank you very much for everybody for contributing. It's fantastic. It's great from our point of view because we know you're there.
Shall I have a go at seeing if I can get?
I think, Charlie, that would be a really good idea. It looks like we've had a significant number of posts. So I think it's great to see that the vast majority of you have got the idea, I think. So, Charlie, I think just to clarify, it would be really helpful if you could run through your thinking, please.
Okay, so I want the numbers on the left to be smaller than the numbers on the right, but I want the numbers on the left to be as big as possible, but that's going to give me the score. So I think I'm going to use the 5, 6, 7, and 8 in my tens columns, because they will give me the biggest number. And if I add 80 and 50, and 80, I think I'm going to have to put a 60 here, and a 7 there, and a 5 there. Sorry about the mess. Okay. I know that this number is going to be smaller than that number, because I'm going to have a 70 something and I'm going to have an 80 something there. I know this number is going to be smaller than this because I'm going to have a 50 something here and a 60 something there. But I've got large numbers in my tens column, so that's good. And now I need to use the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I might as well make the numbers in my units column on the left as big as possible, because 70 and a big number is always going to be bigger, smaller than 80 something. So I think I'm going to use the 3 and the 4 here and here, but it doesn't really matter. I could have put the 4 at the beginning on the top row and the 3 in the bottom row. And again, I could put 1 and 2 here in any order, it doesn't really matter. So I've got 73 is smaller than 82. 54 is smaller than 61. And if I add these, I get 127 would be my score. And I just realized that's not the only way in which I could have organized these numbers. So the 7 and the 5 could be swapped with the 8 and the 6. No, they can't. Ignore me. Ignore me. Oh, yes, they could, because they both had a... No, they can't. Ignore me. I'm thinking on my feet and not doing very well. Monday morning.
But Charlie, I think, well, you've already alluded to it. You could have swapped the 3 and the 4.
Yes.
So there is more than one way, but I agree. 127 is the maximum score we could get here, and I like the way that some of you have been contributing in the Q&A and explaining how you know, and that's great. And I thank you, Charlie, for you were very clear about, well, if I've got the, I've got to have an 8 in the tens here, I need an 8 on the right hand side, because there's no way I'm going to be able to get bigger than the 8. We don't have a 9, so that's got to go on the right. But at the same time, I want to use the 8 in the tens, because then I can use the 7 in the tens on the left, and that's maximizing my score. So thank you very much, Charlie. Well done to those of you who have thought hard about this. If you didn't get 127, I wonder whether you can see now where you made a slip up. And don't worry about that. We haven't given you very long to think about it. And a lot of maths is about reflecting on what you've done, and making mistakes are all part of the learning journey. So don't worry. So Charlie, thank you for sharing your thoughts there. What we're suggesting is that back at school, in your own time over the next few weeks, you could use the idea that we've introduced you to for this particular task, which incidentally is called Less is More. But what you can do is you can use it as a competitive game. You could play a pair against another pair. You could roll a dice a 1 to 6 dice or a 0 to 9 dice, it doesn't matter too much. And after each dice roll, your team and the opposing team can decide where to put that digit. And then when you've placed all 8 digits, you can work out your score in the same way that we have done. And maybe after a few rounds, you can decide that the winning team is the one closest to 500 or something. You can have a look. In a minute, we will show you these tasks on the NRICH website. And there are lots of ideas about how you can score the games. But I wonder what you might take from having had a quick go at this. What would you take into a competitive game like that? What will you be thinking about as you have a go at a competitive game? I think what we're going to do now is show you our new version of this task. Given we've started a bit late because of my mistakes, I think we'll move on rapidly to version number 2. So what we're going to show you now is we've put as a new task on NRICH, very originally, but we rather liked it, called More Less is More. And we've got several versions. Charlie, talk us through this first version. So we've got another inequality.
Okay. Yeah. So again, there are 8 cells that need to be filled.
Yeah.
And like you said, you can play this as a game with dice, but just to save ourselves time, we've decided that the challenge is to work out where to put the numbers 1 to 8. So
like we did before, Charlie, could you have a go at putting the numbers in to make that inequality correct? Where could we put the digits so that you can...
So I've got a 2-digit number plus a 2-digit number. It's going to be smaller than the sum of these 2 2-digit numbers. So I'm pretty sure that if I put quite large numbers on the right and quite small numbers on the left, then so I could put 24 here, for example, and I could put I don't know, 35 here. That's going to come to less than let's use 71 here and say 68 here. And I can tell that that's going to be correct because the 24 is smaller than the 71, the 35 is smaller than 68. So without having to add anything, I can also tell that this is less than 100 and that's more than 100. So do I get full marks for doing this right, Liz?
I think thank you very much, Trey. That's a lovely example, and absolutely we can use our estimation skills without having to do the exact calculation. However, again, we've got a scoring system, Charlie. So this time your score is the total on the left of the inequality sign. Okay, so actually you are going to have to add those 2 numbers up, but you didn't know that. So,
well, luckily it's quite small numbers. Okay, so my score is going to be 24 plus 35, 20 and 30 is 50, 4 and 5 is 9. And presumably we're going to want to make this score as high as possible. So the tension here is you need this sum to be smaller than that sum, but you want this to be as big as possible.
Exactly. So your challenge now, can you do better than Charlie's 59? Exactly as Charlie said, we'd like you to try and get as big as possible in terms of your score, so the sum on the left, but the sum on the left must still be smaller than the sum of the 2 2-digit numbers on the right. Over to you. Have a go. And similarly, if you could post your score for others to see in the Q&A, that would be brilliant. So a few minutes to have a go.
Some schools are already posting scores of more than 100.
I think I would re-echo what I said last time, that, you know, that if you think you have got the highest possible score, rehearse how you know. How do you know? How would you convince somebody else that that is the highest? I've seen one post of 135, which I'm not sure is possible if we're wanting to make that inequality correct as well, using all those numbers once. Well done, though. Thank you for all your contributions.
I think it's possible to have 135 on both sides, Liz. So if we had an equal sign, and the challenge was to make left-hand side and right-hand side equal, then that would be possible.
Maybe that's what that school was doing. Thank you, Charlie. I like the fact that some of you are posting your number, your results, and then adding so far. That's a great mindset to think, well, this is what we've got. This sounds big, but actually, could we do better?
So there are quite a few schools who've got results which are higher than 120. There's a 139, which we don't think is possible. And there's a 100, oh no, yes, okay.
Yes, and I'm not sure 137 is possible either.
This is giving people, everybody, a really good clue. So I think the answer is somewhere over 130, but less than 137. Oh, I love the comment from somebody. My brain exploded. I hope it was metaphorical rather than literal. Okay, I think a lot of people have got the right answer, Liz. Do you want me to talk through?
Yes, why don't we talk through this one? But perhaps in the next example that we're going to show you quickly, we won't reveal the solution. So we'll give you a little bit more to think about the second time. But yeah, please do, Charlie.
Okay, so again, just like last time, I want to use the biggest numbers in the tens columns, because then I'm going to get big sums on the right and big sums on the left. Now, I noticed that 5 and 8 add up to 13, 6 and 7 add up to 13. So if I put them in the tens column, the 50 and the 80 could be 130, the 60 and the 70 could be 130. And it doesn't really matter where, on which side I put them. So I could put the 50 and the 80 there, and the 60 and the 70 there, because I now know 60 and 70, 130, 50 and 80, 130. But likewise, I could have put, say, 8 and 5 there, and 7 and 6 here. And again, I would have had, is it easier if I put the boxes around them? I would still have got 130 on both sides. And the reason I've decided to try and make these equal is that I'm going to try and make the difference with the numbers that are going to appear in the units column. There are other possibilities, because of course I could swap the 8 and the 5 over on this side. I could swap these. Okay, so I've used 5, 6, 7, and 8. If I put a 1 and a 4 on one side in the units column, I'd have to put the 2 and the 3 on the other side, and I'd get 5s in the units column for both. And so I'd have it equal, which is what that school, I think, possibly did. They got 135. So I mustn't do that. So can I get 6 in the units column on the right? Yes, I can, with 4 and 2. And again, it doesn't matter which order. I could have put 2 and 4. And so on this side, if I put 1 and 3, and again, it doesn't matter which order, I'm going to have, in the units column here, the sum is 4. In the units column here, the sum is 6. So in the tens column, I've got the same total. And if I add these numbers, 63 plus 71, the total's 134. And it's exactly the same for that. So those of you, and a lot of people got 134. Yeah, so well done to all of you.
And again, if you didn't get there, but you can, hopefully you've followed some of the reasoning that Charlie has talked through then, and can see where you went wrong, or perhaps you just hadn't had enough time to think about it yet. And we appreciate that, we have to, it's difficult working with so many of you at the same time. We're never going to go at exactly the right speed for all of you. Hopefully you've had something to think about as we go along. So we've got one more version of this task that we'd like to share with you. Now the task on the NRICH website itself has many versions, which we will show you briefly in a moment. But shall we introduce the second version, Charlie, quickly? And we'll just give you a bit of time to think about it, but we won't go through the solution this time. We'll leave that up to you. So Charlie, second version, please. Thank you. So you'll see this time that rather than 2 addition calculations, we've got 2 subtraction calculations, but we're going to work in a very similar way. We're going to grab the numbers 1 to 8. Thanks, Charlie. So just so we all get the idea, Charlie, could you pop those digits in so that the inequality is correct, just so we can just clarify how it works?
Okay, so if I've got a big number, I need a big number on the right.
Yeah.
So I might stick a very large number on the right.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to subtract just very little.
Okay.
I better go crossing out my numbers as I go using them. Okay.
Okay.
So that number there is going to be pretty big.
Yeah.
And then if I have 65 minus 43, that number is going to be very small. So this number is going to be over 50. This number is going to be less than 50.
Yeah. So again, you've used your estimating to convince yourself that your inequality is going to be correct. Now, of course, we've got to introduce the scoring system. So in the same way as before, we're going to use the results on the left-hand side as our score. So what is 65? What's the difference between 65 and 43? 65 take away 43.
Okay, I think it's 22.
I would agree. So in this case, Charlie, your score is 22. You've made the inequality correct, and we've used the results. But once again, our challenge to you working in school is, can you place the numbers, those 8 digits, so that your inequality is correct, but so that the results of that subtraction on the left-hand side is as high as possible? Charlie, you've got in the 20s there, which that's good, but I think people in school can do better than that. Yeah. So why don't you have a bit of a think? We'll just give you a couple of minutes. And then we will leave that one for you to think about a bit more, but a few minutes.
Somebody has asked whether they can use negative numbers. I'm not quite sure what that question means. We're going to use the numbers 1 to 8. You could get a negative solution to a subtraction, of course, because you could be subtracting a large number from a small number. But if you do that, you're not going to maximize your score, because you want your score to be a large positive number. I hope that makes sense. A lot of people are doing better than me by scoring more than 50, but one school managed to score 64, and we don't think that's possible. So if you scored 64, can you have another look? Whereas those of you who are scoring more than 50 are following the rules, I presume.
Thank you, Charlie. I'm now going to ask you, I'm afraid, to do something which I know is going to be hard, and pause your thinking on that task. We hope that you've got the idea of those less is more less is more activities. Charlie, shall we have a look at the NRICH site now, so that we can show those of you working in schools where you can find more examples? So I'm going to share my screen this time and pop up the NRICH website. Here we go. Oh, no, hang on a second. I think before I do that, I better just close the Zoom tab that I was attempting to sort out earlier. There we go.
Liz, I'm looking at the question and answer, and a lot of schools have managed to score more than 60 for that.
Wow.
And the answer is indeed more than 60, but less than 64. So we're not going to give away the answer, but those of you who've scored more than 60, you know that you're on the right track.
Thanks, Charlie. I think that's really helpful to have that little window. So here we set up, we've set up a page for you on the NRICH site. So teachers, do feel free to take a look at this page. It's nrich.maths.org/MWE 2022, Maths Week England 2022. And what we've done is we've put some links to these 2 tasks we've been having a go at with you. If I just follow the links very quickly, they're going to open in a new tab. That one is the less is more task that we started with when we had the 2 inequalities. You'll notice there are some sheets that you can download and print, teachers, if you would like to, for recording purposes. And it encourages you to think about both the competitive version and the collaborative version. Underneath that, back to our Maths Week England page, we've got our more less is more task, which is what we've just been working on. And I just wanted to share this with you because we've had a go at this first one, which we called sum. You've now been thinking about take, but actually there are 2 more versions for you to have a think about in the classroom. So you might want to do a similar thing that Charlie and I have been doing, use the digits 1 to 8, but also why not have a go at the competitive version using a dice once you've had a bit of a think about the numbers 1 to 8. You might notice that on the left-hand side here, there's a submit a solution button. Now, this is because both the tasks we've had a look at this morning are what we call live tasks on the NRICH website. And I can show you these live tasks in their full glory. For example, you might be, let's imagine you're a primary teacher. If you click on the top here, on the primary teacher button, and you can go to the live problem set on the right-hand side, and you will see all the live problems here. So less is more is there, and also more less is more will be there. And I'll show you the equivalent secondary page in 1 second. So these tasks have no solutions to them at the moment, but we are inviting solutions from you. They're working in school. So teachers, if your students have got some really good reasoning to the tasks, they've been able to convince you that they have got the highest scores in each case, please do contribute their solutions. Secondary teachers, the analogous page is up here, secondary teacher button, and the live tasks are here in the pink box, like that. Now, you may notice as well that we've got our math doku tasks here. Now, they have been up on the site for a little while now, and you may have had a go at those already. If you haven't, do have a go. You may have come across Sudokus before, and these are a more mathematical version. You're invited to fill in the 1 to 4 grid. I've clicked on the 4 by 4, but it goes up to 6 by 6, and you can have a look at 3 by 3 as well. These are really lovely numerical challenges, which again will encourage you to use your reasoning. So do have a look at those if you haven't done. Going back to the Maths Week England page, Charlie and I have also suggested a couple of follow-up tasks which you may like to have a look at. Dicey operations in line is another place value task, those of you in primary, and unequal averages uses the idea of inequalities to think about for another task for you to think about further. So do take a look at those. Before we go, we'd also like to draw your attention to the fact that it's almost December, and every December NRICH publishes an advent calendar. So we will have advent calendars this year. There'll be a new task for every day right through to the run up to Christmas. I've got up here last year's advent calendar for primary. So it's /advent-primary, and the same for secondary. So on the 1st of December 2022, these will have changed, those same addresses, same URL, but you'll have 24 new tasks. I'd like to apologise once again for the fact that the chat didn't work. I hope it hasn't spoilt your enjoyment of the event too much, and we really appreciate your participation via the Q&A. Please have a go at these games back in school. Use your place value and your reasoning to try and get the highest possible scores in each case. Teachers, you will receive an email after today, and there will be a link to a feedback form. Please do fill it in. That would be really helpful from our point of view. And the last thing to say is that, as you know, this event is taking part as part of Maths Week England. And teachers, if you do follow NRICH on Twitter, pay particular attention this week, because we will be flagging up all the other events that are taking place as part of Maths Week England, and you may like to join in some of those as well. Charlie, is there anything I have missed out?
I don't think so. Did you mention that when they're playing less is more or more less is more, we're assuming that they might work in pairs, one pair playing against another pair, because there's quite a lot of strategic thinking involved here. And so what we're imagining is a pair playing against another pair, perhaps filling in the cells as the dice get thrown, but perhaps waiting until all 8 dice have been thrown and they know, and then deciding where to put, and then go scoring and go adding after each round their score. And perhaps the team, if you want to call yourselves a team of 2, that gets to 500 first is the winner. You can decide on exact rules, but we think it's a useful way to be thinking about place value. So that's what we were imagining, and we hope that all the thinking that's gone into thinking about where you put the numbers 1 to 8 will help your strategic thinking. That's all, Liz.
Exactly. Thank you. So apologies again that we didn't get the chat right. My fault entirely, but we hope it hasn't spoilt your enjoyment too much. And we wish you a happy rest of your Monday, and enjoy any other Maths Week England activities that you participate in. So thank you all so much, and goodbye.
I'll say goodbye too. Bye-bye. It's been a pleasure working with you all.